Alright everybody, it's happening. We are getting God Valley right now. In the middle of Elbaf, in the middle of what was supposed to be Loki's flashback, we are getting the most anticipated battle in One Piece in years. This is probably the most excited I've been for a One Piece battle since Marineford. And before we get into anything else, I just want to take a moment to appreciate how Oda has set the stage for this moment, really taking the time to build the lore, the world, the feel of this era, to really immerse us in this period, to understand what the dynamics were, to understand what the different relationships between different factions and different individuals were, to understand what public perceptions were, which pirates were the talk of the town, what people's reputations were at the time, and to build genuinely compelling character-to-character storylines in the process, like Rox and Harold, which has really become the dramatic backbone of this whole flashback. And what Oda does very nicely with this chapter is something very similar to what he did in Marineford, which is that before the war started, there was just a nice extended segment, like a full chapter sort of devoted to setting the scene, the atmosphere, and the momentum heading into the battle itself. And Oda does that very nicely with the narrator throughout this chapter, and definitely with all the cuts that we get throughout the chapter to all the major players of this flashback so far, and where everybody is emotionally and in terms of motivations heading into the final battle. I also appreciate that in this chapter, Oda still has time for the little things, like just getting to show even Kaido and Big Mom's conversations heading into the battle before we get there, to remind us that even if these storylines aren't at the forefront of the flashback so far, these are still important events that have to happen, and they set the stage for future character dynamics down the line. So Oda is just covering all of his bases beautifully with this flashback, and I think that this chapter really gives us a full spectrum of everything Oda has built up in this flashback so far. And yet in this chapter itself, while a lot of it is build up, we are still getting major lore reveals before the whole thing begins. Again, reminiscent of how right before Marineford started, we got the reveal that Ace was the son of the Pirate King Roger. It's not quite the same, but the parallels are there with us basically learning in this chapter the true lineages of multiple characters, Shanks and Shamrock, and of course Blackbeard. Both groups seem to actually be descendants of the Davy clan. Now this leads to some very interesting setups, because we were told, of course, that Shanks is supposedly a child of destiny. So this may be what that means, that Shanks is a descendant both of the Celestial Dragons and of the infamous pirate Davy line, which sets up Shanks as a remarkably unique character in terms of what he represents for the world, and does set up for the role that Oda has been hinting that Shanks will have to play in the final war, with many quotes from Oda suggesting that Shanks is going to have the largest role in the final war, second only to Luffy. Although of course, if there's one character who's going to challenge for that, it would be Dragon. And Dragon was actually low-key my favorite part of this chapter, because Dragon is the character that I've anticipated and looked forward to the most in this final saga of One Piece, because he is the character that Oda has been holding closest to his chest. And I love the way that Dragon is introduced here, because unlike many other characters, Dragon is being presented in a much more sort of human manner. It feels almost Kobe-esque in that Dragon doesn't seem like this powerful, commanding force of nature right from the get-go. He really is just a young, normal Marine recruit that is still trying to find his way, and over time he will grow into the Titan that he becomes. But I just love this contrast, because if you look at a lot of the other strongest characters that Oda has written, you have characters like Kaido, Big Mom, who were monsters from a young age. Even Whitebeard was established to be very, very strong from a young age. Ace was a conqueror's haki user as a child, and he was getting Shichibukai offers right off the bat. Shanks was apparently a haki genius who had mastered Divine Departure by the time he was like 14 or 15. And then you have Dragon, who's literally just this infantry, normal foot soldier recruit. It's possible Dragon is a lot stronger right now than he's letting on, but at the very least in terms of his composure, his confidence, his actual status and rank, he is the lowest of the low on the ladder. And I love that because it sets up for a much more unique trajectory for Dragon. I feel like he is most set up as a character to have a true hero's journey, going from basically a nobody with no status, no strength, to learning things about the world that change his perception of everything and set him off on this difficult quest, where in the process he will have to slowly grow stronger and stronger and bring more and more allies to his side, to finally try to take on the great evil that is oppressing the world. Dragon is a fascinating character in that Oda has written him completely differently from all the other protagonists in One Piece, but wait for next Tuesday's video for me to give a much more in-depth breakdown in terms of how special Dragon actually is. But first, if you want to get One Piece's beautiful islands for your walls, you can get any 2 island posters and get another 2 free and free shipping on our brand new site, OneDreamStudio.com. And this month, we're also doing a huge huge giveaway. If you win, you can get the complete Island Posters collection for free. All you have to do is head over to the link below and just give us some feedback, and you will have a chance to win the complete Island Posters collection for free. The giveaway ends on September 16th, so sign up now. The winner will be drawn on stream. And we know how much you all enjoyed the Island Posters, but we've got something even bigger for you around the corner. What we've got next for you all is something you're not going to find anywhere else. Stay tuned. But dragon stuff aside, the two things that really stood out this chapter was 1, how evil Garling is, and 2, how amazing of a character Rox is. Rox has been the shining star of this flashback so far, obviously, and this chapter just cemented that even more so. The fact that Rox started off with such grand ambitions, and we know that ultimately it is all going to go down the gutter, down the drain, it's all going to fall apart, thanks to him basically being at peace with the fact that he's ready to risk it all for something more important, his wife and child, is just so damn beautiful. I love seeing what Rox was all about at the beginning of this story and comparing it to him now. He is, right now, I think One Piece's greatest tragic hero. I'm so excited to see how the rest of this God Valley flashback plays out for him, but the most interesting aspect of all this is that we still actually don't know his true past or motivations. We just got a hint with the Davy stuff, but we do not know yet why Rox had the ambition that he has, and even the details of what that goal actually entails. What does it mean to him to be king of the world? What is he trying to achieve? And what is driving him to do so? I love that we're saving the juiciest aspect of who Rox is for the very end, and already just through seeing his story so far and his actions, he's become such an endearing character. I think most of us at this point predict that Harold is going to come through and save Rox, because that is the type of storytelling that Oda likes. He likes the idea of loyalty coming full circle, and Rox and Harold's conflict was the main dramatic focal point of Rox's storyline so far. I do think Oda is going to have that friendship have a happy ending, even if it does conclude with Rox's death down the line. I think in this moment, we are going to see that friendship actually hold true in the end. Especially with the line that we know Kaido said, that pirates will betray you in the end. I do imagine that a lot of the other Rox Pirates members are going to abandon Rox before all is said and done, and Harold is going to be the one person who comes through and has his back. So I'm very excited for that hopefully coming to fruition. And then on the other hand, we have Garling, who... There are a lot of characters in One Piece who are competing for the title of most cold-blooded and cruel, but Oda always seems to find a way to top what he's done before. Doing that to the mother of your newborn children, a woman who is so innocent, who genuinely loves you, and doing that to her without a second thought, as though it's squashing an ant, is just next level evil. I'm very excited to see who ends up taking down Garling in this battle. If he is defeated, who at least gets to fight him. We know that he does not get Shaki, so I'm hoping that it is Rayleigh. Because honestly, among the Roger Pirates, Rayleigh is the one who we're really rooting for at this point, because Roger has been kind of a hindrance in this whole storyline. I think he's had some cool moments, like when he waltzed into Shaki's bar, but at the same time, it feels like there's so much more serious and dramatic stuff going on, and Roger is kind of just throwing a whole wrench in the works for this gag of him loving Shaki. If Roger's actions genuinely end up getting in the way and stopping Rox from being able to save his wife and child, I am going to hold some deep-seated resentment for Roger. I don't think I will find it in me to be able to like that character in the future, and I know that Roger's a character that Oda really wants us to like. At the same time, I trust that whatever character stuff Oda has planned for Roger in the midst of all this is going to shine through, because ultimately Roger is the Pirate King. He's the one who started the story. He's the one who gave Shanks the hat, which was then passed down to Luffy. He's the one that Luffy is following in the footsteps of. We know that Oda wants us to like Roger at the end of the day, so I trust that Oda has something really big and really admirable for Roger planned before the end of all this. I wouldn't even be surprised if by the end of this all, it's not even about Roger versus Rox, it's Roger and Rox teaming up against some other force, maybe even Imu coming down to fight them, much like we're seeing in Elbaf right now. So fingers crossed for that. I'm hoping that Oda does not make me hate Roger by the end of all this. And finally, the Davy Clan. So I have a lot of ideas on what the Davy Clan could mean. This is, of course, confirmation that Davy Jones is a huge deal in One Piece, and at the very least, what I'll say right now is that I do believe that Davy Jones was another pirate from Joy Boy's era, and I actually believe that Davy Jones may initially have been on Joy Boy's crew. But I'm going to leave that alone for the moment and save that for a future video. And finally, we have a voice from the people, my top tier of patrons. So Big Al said that in Kuma's flashback, the announcer noted that there were 13 super rare rabbits among the tournament, with Kuma being one. and now we found out that members of the Davy clan are also in this category. Rox mentioned to Harold that they wouldn't expect him to crash their party, so it might be presumed that they don't know Teach is a member of the clan at this time, and there are 12 other noteworthy individuals included in this hunt. That is a really, really good point. I'm very interested in seeing what this entire Davy clan looks like, and if there are some other familiar faces that might surprise us there. I know some people have talked about the similarities between Kid and Rox, and between Buggy and Rox. It's possible that there's a lot of family ties here that might be discovered, so God Valley, I think it's definitely going to live up to expectations. The hype for it for me is already at an absolute maximum. I'm giving this chapter a 9.5 out of 10. I'm holding off on the 10s just because I assume that the following chapters are going to blow even this one out of the water. So with that, really looking forward to the next chapter, and I will talk to you all next week.